Welcome to From Hollywood to the Heartland. From Hollywood to the Heartland. Where two actors share their journey from Tinseltown to Middle America. Stories and insights about showbiz, along with lots of laughter. It's all right here. Here's your host, veteran podcaster, Bo Tiffany.
And with that for now, let's get this show on the mother freaking road.
10-4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode, an exciting episode there of From Hollywood to the Heartland. Today we have a special guest who is truly a multi-talented force in the entertainment industry. From stand-up comedy to acting, writing, and directing, Victor Varnado has done it all. You've seen him in the big screen films like End of Days, along with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you've laughed at his sharp wit and comedic brilliance on stages across the country. As a writer and director, Victor has worked on unique and hilarious projects that push the boundaries of storytelling, all while breaking down the barriers in Hollywood. He's also an advocate for diversity and representation, using his voice to challenge perceptions and inspire others. We're thrilled to dive into his incredible journey, so please let me welcome Victor Varnado. Victor, thanks for coming on.
Hello.
I know it's a mouthful, right? I wanted to do you justice.
That was great reading. I loved it.
My first time that I came across you was actually in Pluto Nash, and it didn't do so great in the theaters, but probably one of the cult classics these days, and I loved it. And your bit was memorable. How did you get that opportunity?
I had an agent who sent me to an audition. I know it's not like great of a story, but
What? I've never heard of such.
Holy cow! Yeah,
sorry.
What the hell's that about?
But an interesting thing. There are a lot of interesting things about working on The Adventures of Pluto Nash, because that was my first time in that size of a role in that large of a movie ever. And that was pretty crazy for me. And then a couple of amazing things. I was in Montreal for 6 months working on that movie. I didn't realize what a big deal it is to be an actor on a movie that size. Because when you're an actor on a movie that size, the entire business machine, the whole thing is tuned to make sure that you're happy and okay to go in front of camera when they need you in front of camera. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole society economy built around keeping the actors happy. So I, coming into that, didn't understand how much power I wielded as an actor compared to, say, like a PA working on the movie and what they've been told and what has been beat into them about how to and not to talk to the actors. So when I was approaching the set at one point, and there was a gumball machine on the set. It was like, the set was like a 1/4 acre fake city set. And there was a gumball machine, and I was trying to get a gumball out of the gumball machine. And then a PA was like, "Are you trying to get a gumball?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it's not free, and I don't have any quarters." And then I walked to the director's station, whatever, like, what do they call the camp? I'm sorry. What's the name of it, of the director's camp on a set?
It's been...
Anyway,
yeah.
Doesn't matter. So I was walking toward that area. And by the time I'd reached there, apparently the PA had got on the walkie-talkie and was like, "Can we get a quarter here for this machine?" And they somehow got the quarters, and somebody ran. So by the time I arrived to the director's area, just where, what do they call it? Video Village. I'm so sorry. There, Video Village. So by the time I had arrived to Video Village, they had gotten gumballs, had a handful for me. And we're like, "Here, you wanted gumballs, here's your gumballs." And I was like, "What are you doing?" But I didn't know. But that's the way the whole machine works. Is just like, they're like, the actors are like gold. And so
yeah. So growing up in Minneapolis, was getting an entertainment always something that you strove to do, or did you always have a love for getting in front of people?
Oh yeah, I went to performing arts high school. So like I was in the science, math, and technology magnet at the high school, but then I also joined the performing arts magnet while I was in high school. Big fan of the original Fame back in the day. And then so that meant that like in high school I started learning improv, doing theater, blah blah blah. And then immediately right after high school I was working with improv companies, and then finally that led to just me acting.
And did you go from Minneapolis to LA, or when did you leave Minneapolis?
I left Minneapolis in 1997
Oh,
and I
okay.
moved to New York first. And I
Gotcha.
moved to New York to quote unquote make it with a friend of mine. His name is Colton Dunn. You may know him as Garrett on NBC's Superstore.
Mhm.
And also he's in the Recruit.
Mm.
He does a bunch of stuff. He's
Yeah.
yeah. And so we moved to New York together. And then we both were like, let's go for it. And then in New York is actually really funny. He definitely is like more established than I am as an actor. But when we started off, I started off first because we moved to New York, and then I got like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie and The Adventures of Pluto Nash. But one of the things that I had was I like really pivoted on my career because I got fed up with the idea of always being the albino in everybody's thing.
Mm.
Is that when you pivoted towards stand-up, or?
That is when I did stand up when I came to New York initially, but that's when I pivoted more toward directing and producing because I wanted
Oh,
to like control what
That's one of
like
the
how I was presented.
it's one of the things that I like about you is your diversification. You branched out and explored several different avenues, and you didn't put all your eggs in one basket. That's one of the themes of our show. That seems to be one of the best tools for success is that diversification. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I think that so let me let me put it this way. First of all, so 7 years ago, I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I was working as a producer on the Love and Hip Hop franchise, and I was getting paid very well, and it was a good time. But the problem was that I was working for somebody else, and I was like, what am I going to do with my future? Blah, 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 blah. And so I decided to jump in and start learning about business. And then the more that I learned about business, the more that I realized that, uh, okay, so it is very possible to be extremely successful doing whatever you want as long as you just learn. And diversification is one of the things, but it's not even about diversification. That's not the strongest thing. The strongest thing is learning making money as a skill. When I realized that making money was a skill, like playing the piano, like you're gonna suck at playing the piano when you first start to play the piano, but you keep doing it for months, you're gonna play the piano. And so that's exactly the same way making money is. It is an absolute, just a straight up skill that you can learn. And when that was told to me, I it changed everything. It changed everything. And I was like, oh, I can make money doing anything.
Yeah. What clicked about that for you? It seems so simple and straightforward, but it's not.
No, it's not, because I think that as an artist or artist in general, like we don't think about making we don't think about making money as a skill. We think about making money as a as a fashionist design. We should just be able to make art in the woods. So we think about making money differently, but it's straight up just it's a skill like sewing a shirt. Like it's something you can do as an artist and be fine about. I never thought about it like that previously. I always thought about it as something that was out of reach and you had to be a certain type of person to do it, or you had to know the ins and outs of so many different things. But when I break it all down, like it is just it's a skill. And I was watching like a person on YouTube who is like a former like Harvard MBA graduate, and he's just like breaking down his MBA stuff like very simply. And then when he said making money is a skill and explained exactly why it was a skill and broke it down like very simply, I was just like, oh, it like really blew my mind. And it just
Yeah.
changed everything.
so when you say it's a skill, did you learn how to develop different income streams? Did you learn how to invest in real estate? What skills that did you acquire to make more money?
The core skill is that I understand how to take almost any situation and make money from it, which means that
Please teach.
I can take my situation and make money from it, which is being an artist. And so that was the core skill. Everything that you're talking about, those are things that I learned along the way. Like when I went to the business accelerator, they're all like marketing, and they're like, these are lines of income, these are gross margins, they're teaching me all that. But I like to take everything and just break it down to its most simple form. And breaking things down to its most simple form is a way where I can digest it and execute it easily.
Yeah, it's like eating an elephant. You do it one bite at a time, one piece at a time.
Exactly. What a great choice. Now,
I don't know if you're being facetious or what.
Here's an example of how I break things down for myself so that they're really simple. Okay, so one thing that is hard for people to do is to believe that they can actually be wildly successful. Like a lot of people, it's hard to believe that you can achieve that. But then I found a sentence that I can use. I can prove that you can be wildly successful right now. In one sentence, I'm going to do it for everybody here. Here it is.
Here we are. Okay.
Here it is. Whatever you want to do, there's someone out there right now doing that same thing worse, and they're a millionaire. You can do it.
Yeah.
There we go. Wow.
For real.
No,
that's 100%. I think about that all the time. All the time. Like whatever I'm doing, because you've always, whatever you're doing, you've seen people out there who are doing that thing worse, and they are wildly successful. That is the truth. And so anybody can do it.
So have you gone more behind the scenes now? Because as we all know, making a living as an actor is very tough. So
yes,
you haven't relied solely on that, obviously.
No, I have not relied solely on that, but I have relied on building a company where I can give myself jobs as an actor. And then making money as an actor is still like very possible, because the way that the world is set up right now, you could make yourself more famous or more hireable just by how you present yourself online.
Yeah.
It gives you a jump start on everything. You're absolutely right. It's much easier than driving around Los Angeles in the 80s trying to accomplish the same damn thing.
Yeah, if you just know and how to do those things. So like I have not pursued YouTube a lot. The reason I haven't pursued YouTube a lot yet is because the ramp up is slow. So there's faster ways to make money than YouTube. But I've studied a lot about how to grow on YouTube. And that's also why I know that the ramp up is slow.
Yeah, it's not easy. Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
The ramp up is slow, but it is a business model that works. There is a YouTube business model. If you follow that business model, you will make money. You just need to follow it.
So let's dive into that a little bit. I think you yourself are really good at creating an audience. You did that with your comedy. What a lot of people don't get is, how do you go about doing that? How do you develop that audience? Is there some key components that stick out to you that you can share that will give us some nuggets of insight?
I feel like if you want to create an audience, all you really need to do is, this is so simple, but give them something that they want. But that is like the people want something that benefits them. Okay. Whether it is something that makes them richer, or something that makes them cooler, or something that makes them happier, or whatever, you've got to figure out what is that thing that you're giving them, and then just give that to them like 1,000%. Like I do, like in whatever work that I'm doing, I'm always like considering, okay, what am I giving to people? And I also believe that things that entertain me entertain other people. So I'm always just making things that I would enjoy.
Right.
So you have your own production company then, right? And what kind of projects are you doing with that?
Yes, I do. I have a production company. It is expanded, and now it's a tech and media company.
Ooh.
It's not just a production company.
Wow.
There's so much more.
So there.
To Supreme Robot.
I love the name. Yeah.
But let me look at this list really quick. I want to look at this and tell you exactly what we're working on. Because half of it is, okay, so Supreme Robot right now, I have a bunch of projects that are out. But here's what we're working on right now. Okay, so I have a podcast called Wiki Listen. It's a podcast where I read Wikipedia pages.
I love that.
It's a daily podcast. It's really fun, and we have special guests on it. Okay, and I'm a co-host of that podcast, and that podcast has an investor and it makes money through ads so far. We're going to expand, but that's what it's doing right now. Then I have an app called Magic Book of Fire, which is an AI app that I wrote. It is like, it's just at the beginning, but it is an AI app that does something that no other AI app does, which is that you can take any old text or conversation or whatever and throw it into the app, and it will go through that data and write you a first draft of a book. So you could take, if you're a speaker and you have a 3-hour speech, you could just take that speech, throw it into this app, and it'll give you a first draft that then you could then take and edit to make a final draft.
Wow.
It does like the busy work for you, writing. It like goes through the data, organizes it, and then writes a draft so that you could then take it further. Then I created that for myself, actually, because I was like trying to turn a podcast episode that I did into an ebook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
Are you a coder, or did you get somebody to make it for you with your idea?
I am a coder, but I have a friend who's a better coder, and we work together.
Nice.
I do most of the AI programming, and he did most of the coding.
Okay.
Gotcha.
His name is Omar. He's awesome. Then I have High Score Game Arcade. That is a thing that I'm promoting right now, which is I like to make video games. And so then I created a website that does a daily video game high score contest so people would play my video games. And then I went out and I found sponsors for it. And so now we're doing the first ever worldwide high score contest right now. So here's how the worldwide high score contest works. I made a game. Anybody in the world can enter and play it because you can just do it right on your phone. And every day, the high score winner gets $10, actually $9.99. And then on October 19th, the high score winner gets $1,000.
Wow. Okay.
So go practice, everybody. It's free. It's free. It's sponsored. It's free. The money comes from somebody else. Let's all use the corporation's money and spread it to the world. All right. And
what's the website for that?
highscoregamearcade.com.
That's awesome. Again, diversity and diversification. You have it in spades, my friend. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Those are like some of the bigger things I'm working on. I have other stuff too. I have a book called the Anti-Racism Activity Book. I have a different podcast called the Arts Academy Podcast, where all I do is teach people how to do the business side of the arts. That podcast actually started out of necessity because I was always a person like, I hate when people keep information. And so I would always like tell people everything that I knew when they would ask. But then I got known as that guy. And so everybody was coming out of the woodwork. And then so eventually I was like, okay, if you want me to tell you everything, take me to dinner and I'll tell you over dinner and you pay and I will not like skimp on the drinks. And then that got too out of hand because it was too much of that. So then I was like, okay, if I start a podcast, then I could be like, oh, listen to that episode.
There you go.
Anytime anybody asks me something, I can make it into an episode of a podcast and then point to that podcast.
That's smart.
That's one of the reasons that we started what we do, isn't it, Connor?
It is. Yeah. We want to put the power in the average person's hands. Anthony and I were very successful in Los Angeles, but I've been more successful since I moved to Oklahoma doing voiceovers. I still do tons of animation, tons of video games, and have all my corporate people, Audi and Visa, or not Visa anymore, but Sandals, all those stuff I still have. And the average person can do it. They don't have to move to a major city to have a major career. You just don't have to have that.
Yeah, it's a global economy now. It's crazy.
It sure is. I wanted to ask you, Victor, is for those that are just entering the entertainment industry, especially creatives who want to explore just a lot of areas like that you have, what advice would you give to them about balancing and mastering different skill sets? Because you've referred several times to skill sets, and I like that because that's really what it is. It's very few inane born talents. A lot of it is skill sets that we got to learn.
If I was going to talk to anybody in the entertainment industry that's starting out, I would say this: really focus on set yourself up to make money so that you have the time that you need to pursue your art. And I don't mean by getting a job that pays you well. I mean, okay, so I'm going to tell you what I think is the easiest way to make money. I think is the easiest way to make money. It does maybe take a little money or skill or technical skill, but if you don't have the technical skill and you have a little bit of money, here's the easiest way to make money. Okay, so come up with something that is worth like $5,000. Okay, something that's worth $5,000. And you come up with something that's worth $5,000. Find people who will bring you people who are interested in that thing enough to buy it, who would pay $5,000 for that thing. And that thing is something that you can do as an artist, and you do that thing twice a month, okay? And you make $10,000. Here's an example. If you are an amazing portrait painter, okay? You can paint portraits. Someone out there would pay $5,000 for a very good painting of themselves. Would you agree with that? Like someone in the world would pay $5,000 for a great
their
portrait
dog
painting?
or their baby or their
exactly.
car. Yeah.
And then so sales. So there are people who all they do is you have an offer that's a product, a portrait painting. You have an offer, they find you people who will buy it for you, who would be interested in meeting and talking to you. So they use the internet to scour the internet for potential leads through email or ads or whatever, however they do it. That's what their job is, and that's all they do. So you come to them with an offer, and they find you people who will come in and come to a meeting. They find you leads, and then you talk to those leads and you sell them that thing, and then they pay you $5,000 to do what you're great at. And you can do that with any discipline. Just come up with that thing. And I did it myself. I made a video game, and I found somebody who would pay me $100,000 to do it. Okay. Because I did exactly that. I made a thing that I thought was worth $100,000. And then I found somebody who had the money through outreach. And then they gave me $100,000 to make this contest.
I love it.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
brilliant.
did you use them? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's absolutely brilliant. Again, this ought to be this is going to be, here's the name of your biography when you're going to come out with that. It's called Dumbing It Down for Friends. I love how you take these massively complex things and you're making them relatable, like reading the back of the box of cereal. And I love that we're in that society now that we don't need to go to Yale to understand business. We don't need to become an astrophysicist to understand that we don't live on a flat earth. There's all these gatekeepers and all that stuff. I'm like you. It's just to hell with them, to down with them as we get that information out. And I love the sector of the entertainment business that you're focusing on, all encompassing with video games and everything. And you're putting that information out there for a lot of people who are widely interested in being their true artist self. To me, I think that's absolutely amazing, Victor. I think it's great.
Yeah, I do too. It's freaking awesome.
Got to ask you about working. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to toss it to you because you were trying to get in before, so I was politely going to toss it over to you.
I got to ask you about working with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Eddie Murphy, of course.
Working with Arnold Schwarzenegger was awesome. I had multiple encounters with him where I freaked out because that movie, End of Days, was the first movie I was on that was a big movie. That was the first big movie I've ever done. And then, so I freaked out talking to Arnold Schwarzenegger because you got to think like this guy, he is. Remember we were talking about Kevin Hart, like what he's doing. That's what Arnold Schwarzenegger did. So he's an icon. He's like Mickey Mouse, but a person. And so the first time I was on set and I was walking next to him, I was walking to, I think, hair and makeup, and then he was walking next to me, and it just so happened that our paces were the same. And so I was like next to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then I looked at him, and then he looked at me, and he looked at me, and I was wearing a crazy wig because I had a character with a crazy wig, and he looked up at my hair, and he started laughing at my hair, and I was like, "Don't look at me like I'm crazy. I'm in your movie, man." And he goes, "Yeah, you're doing a good job." I think he's used to people freaking out around him. So.
Talk about somebody that got involved in the business. A guy owns most of Santa Monica. His real estate skills are just unbelievable.
Maybe. Or maybe they're not. Maybe his skills of finding people whose real estate skills are unbelievable. Because that's the key for me. There's so many things that I just don't. I can't wait till I'm wealthy enough that I do not have to know anything. I could just hire trusted people who know everything. Can't wait till I'm just like the village idiot.
Victor, I don't know if you know this or not, but you and I have something in common.
Legs?
Okay, we have several things in common. One of which is you're in the Adventures of Pluto Nash, of course, and I believe wasn't Ron Underwood the director?
Yes.
He was my director when I was in City Slickers, and yeah, it was like his first film after whatever the worm that turns, whatever the hell that
Tremors.
Thank you so much. Otherwise known as The Worm That Turns. Yeah, that was like his next big project, which at the time we were making it, we thought it was just another piece of shit because it was just in the desert and we're all dying, and Jack Palance has pneumonia, so I didn't think it was going to go anywhere, and then it ended up getting Palance Best Supporting Actor. But yeah, so we have that in common. That working with Ron, of course, I'm sure he was much better by the time you worked with him. He was depending a lot on his surroundings, his assistant directors and stuff, and he had big names that I think for that early part of his career, trying to work with Billy Crystal, and Palance was intimidating. We were all scared of him. I think he wanted that leverage to use as his character, but I just thought that was cool. I have long quit becoming in front of the camera, as you can see by the animated figure that I have, because I just haven't been in front of the camera in a million years. For some director to be commonplace between us, that's amazing, I think.
Yeah.
I think Ron Underwood is awesome. I feel bad because I feel like Pluto Nash ruined his career.
Why did everybody hate that movie so much? I loved it. It was such a great, funny movie.
I think it was too. Yeah, I don't see what I thought I ruined his career.
You didn't see how people didn't like Pluto Nash? Really? You can't see it.
But I loved it. It was right on my level. Loved it,
but you can love something that and understand why other people hate it.
Yeah. I didn't think it was as bad as everybody gave it credit for.
Yeah, come on. All
right. I just have shitty taste in movies.
One of my absolute favorite movies, like a lot of people hate, especially girls when I was younger. Tron, the original Tron, was my favorite movie. Like I have a poster of that on my wall. I have shown it to one or two ladies who are like, "What is this? Take me home now."
Wow, it got her that hot, huh? She wanted you to.
Yeah. Also, actually, it hasn't really happened with Tron, but that did happen with Army of Darkness, where oh my gosh, this was in Montreal while shooting Pluto Nash. Because I was like big shit because I was like actor from out of town working on an Eddie Murphy movie living in Montreal for 6 months. So word got around and everybody was like, this is great. So I was dating this model who's like way like out of my league normally, I would say at the time. Now I can pull anybody, but my wife stops me. But at the time, like there's this model, and then I took her to my house, my apartment that I had rented there, which looked like a James Bond apartment because it was like Warner Brothers money. And then and I took her and we were hanging out drinking, and I turned on a movie. I was like, this is a great movie, and it was Army of Darkness, and halfway through she wanted to go home. She was like, this sucks, take me home.
Oh, then you knew that. Yeah, if they don't like Army of Darkness, that should be the first test right there. That's a litmus test.
Yeah, I was fine. I was like, fine, go.
Of course. Yeah.
I feel your pain. When I was in high school, I had a girl that took me to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That was an interesting experience. But I don't know if you've ever caught that, and it's a cult kind of thing where they dress up and they act out the movie during the movie. So it's like a whole.
Yeah, I love it. What is not to love about that? And it's got Tim Curry, period.
I hadn't seen it before, so it was like I was a virgin to the whole concept. I didn't have any reference, so I had PTSD for a week or two. But
did Tim Curry awaken anything in you?
Yeah,
a little bit.
I started wearing fancier shoes because of him.
He did such a great role.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he looked better in stilettos than my first wife.
Tim Curry has one of my favorite takes in a movie ever. Like he does like a improvised take. I think it's either the Phantom or the one where it's like Alec Baldwin, and it's like around that era when they were like doing these off superheroes. And it was was Tim Curry in the Phantom?
I don't remember him in.
I don't remember him in the Phantom, but maybe I'm wrong. I can Google that quick.
It was either in the Phantom or some other movie that he was in when Alec Baldwin was the star, and he like maybe had a scarf over his face and his eyebrows were above it, and I forgot what the name of that character was. But Tim Curry was in like some movie, and then he was like a villain.
Oh, and you're thinking of The Shadow.
Yes, The Shadow. Okay,
yeah.
Tim Curry's in The Shadow?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so in The Shadow, at one point, Tim Curry is like running away as a villain, and somebody corners him, and then he's like being cornered, and like freaking out, and then he drools out of his mouth, and it was obviously not planned. But then he like looks down at his drool and looks up at the person chasing him and look at me, I'm pathetic, and doesn't look like I'm pathetic, and then let me go, and he just goes away, and that's like in the movie, and it's so funny, and it's Tim Curry's great. Oh my god, it's so funny.
That is so funny.
Was it Eddie Murphy as friendly to you as Arnold Schwarzenegger was, or?
Yeah, Eddie Murphy was super friendly. I don't know if he sent them, but his like some of his people who worked with him, like his stunt coordinator, they went out and watched me do stand-up. So before they went out and watched me do stand-up, Eddie Murphy was very cordial with me, nothing special. But when they went out and watched me do stand-up, and then they reported back that I was funny, then Eddie Murphy opened up and was so nice. Except he had very Eddie Murphy advice, because this is like me near the beginning of my career, and I'm in an Eddie Murphy movie, and Eddie Murphy was like, "Hey man, I heard that you were pretty funny," and I was like, "Oh really? Awesome." And he goes, "Hey, yeah, I'll tell you what. When I started stand-up, the thing that really changed my career, HBO special. You should do an HBO special." And I was like, "Yeah." Yeah, what a great idea. Eddie Murphy.
Thank you. I would never have thought of that. Yeah. That's awesome.
I should just do one. Awesome.
Can you open some doors?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not what you know. Speaking of comedy, when did you realize that you had a knack for being funny?
I've always been funny. I'm born a black kid with albinism. I had to be funny when I was young. I started out funny. I've always had a razor sharp tongue so that I could dismantle anybody in high school, so I didn't get into fights.
Nice.
That's
so
cool.
You popped out and just started slinging words with the doc, huh?
Oh yeah, I hold my tongue so much in real life.
Victor, stand-up comedy has drastically changed. When I was out in LA and seeing Jay Leno doing stand-up, all of the old crew, it has changed over the years. So how do you see your comedic style like evolving with today's audience? Because today everyone wants an all-encompassing entertainment venue, but what's been your strategy for staying fresh? Like you were saying, like Kevin Hart earlier, how do you finding yourself staying fresh in that competitive space there?
Good question.
I feel like I am. What is staying fresh?
It just
relevant.
I'm trying to skip around the cancel culture of just, we couldn't have a Don Rickles today. We couldn't have Joan Rivers today. And I remember there's been a lot of comedians that have people sign forms before their show saying that if you're going to be offended, then don't go to my show. If you're going to go on social media and diss me, don't be in the room. And it's just, I'm finding it hard that for someone to, there's no more George Carlins or Eddie Murphys that are just, or Richard Parrs that are just putting stuff out there and letting it be there. Let comedy be comedy. And they're doctoring it.
I absolutely beg to differ with you 1,000%.
Good. Okay.
Number one, there are Don Rickles out there. Don Rickles was of an era.
Right.
There's people who are still doing the Don Rickles thing and doing it really well. Mark Norman is one of them.
Okay.
Mark Norman is a guy. He's very different. He's very different than I think a lot of comics are just are trying to say that they're going to be protected by the idea that comedy is an art, and I'm saying something, so comedy is an art, so that protects me from your evaluation of my work. And I think that Mark Norman is one of those guys where he's like sewing up the holes. Like he's talking about risque subject matter, but he's talking about it in such a way where I feel like it's full featured. You're not mistaking what he's talking about. I think that cancel culture is one of the things that runs through it, is that a lot of comics who are against cancel culture and I'm against cancel culture in general too, because it's just like stupid. But a lot of comics who are against cancel culture but are saying that I want to joke about X, Y, or Z, and as a comic, you got to understand that it's a joke. No, that's not good enough. I think that the problem really is comedians who don't tell their jokes good enough so people understand them correctly. Your job as a comedian is to communicate with your audience. I think you can talk about any subject you want, anything.
I agree.
But
so I agree with that.
Make it a good joke. Make it a good journey. And if people are mad at you because you're like, if you're like a person who wants to do a joke about anything, let's say you wanted to do a joke about, I don't want to pick anything out of the, I don't pick anything because I want to get my point across. Let's say you're going to do a joke about black people, okay? Because I'm a black person, so I can use that as an example.
Right.
If you want to do a joke about black people, and if you want to do a joke about black people and you do that joke and black people are offended, and then you're like, hey, don't be offended, I'm a comedian, you're not a good comedian.
I agree.
You should do jokes that people get. If you can't do jokes that people get, then that's on you as a comedian.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. And when I go out, I love comedy, but it's just, maybe it's because I'm old. It's just, I very rarely see anyone that stands up with any of those guys that I grew up with they don't apologize for anything. Richard Pryor never apologized for anything that he said. He just said it. He did it. And whether he walked out of the theater, who cares?
Watch some of the Comedy Central roasts. Those are
yeah. But again, I think that's formulaic. Yeah, again, it's like reality television. It's but it's good. Would you think of someone like Pryor or Carlin or Rickles, who were just going everywhere every night of the week and doing their set, and just for their stuff, just known that either you can take the heat or you can't. But when I was in college, a group of us, we wanted to be insulted by Rickles so bad. We saved money up and drove to Vegas in the middle of the night so that we could make his show the next night. And we got the third row, and we were in heaven when he insulted each of us. We just loved it. We wanted to be insulted.
But that was then, this is now. The world is evolving.
Yeah.
Sure, comedy evolves as the world evolves.
That's true. That's probably why my time is short anyway, because I'm not finding comedy as much as I used to. But your question is great. Or your answer is great. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I love comedy. I love comedy of all kinds. I love great comedy about risque subjects. If it's smart, I love it.
You found Hannibal Buress, right?
I mean, I didn't find him.
Awkward comedy.
He had a whole life before he met me.
But I mean, that kind of helped launch his career.
You didn't grow him in an aquarium?
I did cast him in his first special, I believe, which is Awkward Comedy Show, because we were all friends. This funny thing is, the Awkward Comedy Show came about because Comedy Central, they told me to submit for a half-hour special, and then I did submit for a half-hour special, and they were like, nah, we don't want to do that. And I was like, what? You told me to submit. And then so I was like, I'm going to make my own special. So then I just gathered up all my friends who were Hannibal Buress, Eric Andre, Baron Vaughn, Marina Franklin. And then I was like, what can I do now? What can I do now that will bring us all together? So I created the Awkward Comedy Show because we all happen to be funny, weird black guys. And so that became the Awkward Comedy Show.
That's funny.
Is that a Michigan hat you're wearing, by the way?
Yes, my wife is from Michigan, and the last time I went
Okay.
there, I picked up a hat.
Gotcha. Oh, we've got a cabin up in northern Michigan, so I was just wondering.
Oh, okay, cool.
My Mackinac Island, way up north.
You know, Victor, not that you're too far away from my age, but I'm starting to look at things in terms of legacy and vision. And when you look at your body of work and your journey so far, what legacy do you hope to leave behind in the entertainment world?
In the entertainment world?
Yeah, in terms of what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind with your work? I guess maybe entertainment world's not the greatest coin phrase, but you know what I'm trying to say.
In whatever I'm doing, I want to create masterpieces. This is my vision. I just want to create things that are just undeniably amazing. And then when people see them or hear about them, they're like, wow, that is cool, was cool, whatever. And so, and I feel like I'm doing that. I feel like creating like a high score competition all around the world. That's awesome. That's a cool thing. Wiki Listen, I think, is like a really good, fun, weird idea. Like, I like to make just cool things. And if I can make something, I just want to make it of note.
Do you consider yourself an artist first, or what do you consider yourself first?
Yeah, artist 100% first.
That's what I heard too. Yeah. I'll tell you, I screwed up this first part of our podcast with technical issues, but this has been as fun as I could have envisioned and hoped. You really set the bar for diversification and just applying yourself. And one thing that is really cool about you is you look around, you analyze, and then you target. And so your path is filled with purpose rather than chance. Does that make sense?
Well
Yes.
said.
Yes, I think it reminds me of preparation makes luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
1000%.
Gentlemen, anything that we can add before we let Victor go? I really appreciate your time today, Victor. It's been great.
Oh, thanks for coming on. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a pleasure to talk with you, Victor.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
You're a very entertaining individual.
Right on. Let's make out.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
The
Let's
chat
go.
room, the chat
Let's
room is
go.
open.
The
Okay.
compliments will do it every time.
We talked about a lot of your future
if your wife allows.
Oh, good answer.
Anything I can push real quick before we let you go? What's your next thing coming up? Next project?
My next project, I have an off-Broadway show called the NYC Talent Show that's going to be at Second City, but that's in New York. If you want, everybody go play High Score Game Arcade. highscoregamearcade.com. It's free. You can win if you don't suck at video games. Or sometimes you'll win even if you do. Go play.
Fair enough. Victor, it's been great, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's another
Thanks for having
episode.
me.
All right. You guys have a great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks a lot, Victor. I appreciate that.